These are my favorite tips and tricks with Google Maps. The first is, did you know that you can put your own images into Google Maps, into the Street View? Here we are on the map view. We can switch to satellite. And now this little man right here, this little orange man, when you pick him up, the areas that turn blue have Street View. Now, Google's gone around and taken these images, but you can insert your own images using an app on your phone called Google Street View, and you can take a 360 image. I did this at Adobe in my classroom. So you can see what my classroom looked like. Another tip is, did you know you can go back in time? Let's go to Idaho and 5th. Here at Idaho and 5th, what you see in the Google Street View has changed over time. So let's go ahead and drop the orange man right at Idaho and 5th, and we can see that this building is no longer there. But if we go back to the time machine right up here and click on the time machine, we can look at what it was like in 2011. You can do this with many places on the earth, as Google has kept all the photos it has taken over time in its Google Street View. The next tip is, did you know you can go tour museums around the world? Let's go to the Van Gogh. The Smithsonian's also have these inside tours that you can go on in Google Street View. So if we pick up the Street View man and we drop him on the Van Gogh Museum, even though it's temporarily closed, we can still go inside. And when you go inside, some of the paintings, the pieces of artwork, will have these dots by them, and the dots will give you more information about the painting. You can also, let's go back inside one second. You can also tour around, so you can go on a tour and walk around the museum and look at the different pieces of artwork. Pretty cool. You can also go underwater. So let's zoom out and let's go to the Great Barrier Reef. Here we are at the Great Barrier Reef, and right along here, these dots, some of them will take you underwater. And there you go. Well, if you think it's cool to go underwater, let's go to outer space. When you scroll out, make sure nothing is up here in the search bar, or this doesn't work. So make sure you've cleared out any searches you have. You also need to switch. Right now I'm on map view, okay? And I believe this is a Mercator projection map, but you can switch to globe. This is also a great thing to show students how different the world looks in a globe versus a map, and that why we have map distortions when we do go from a globe to a map. When you do zoom out, you will see the clouds, and these clouds are pretty relatively in real time. So that's an interesting thing that most people don't know, is that the clouds do change. Now, when we keep zooming out, eventually we're going to get to a point where we can see the sun and how it's hitting the earth, and why we have day and night, and why we have different time zones. You can talk about that. But you also will have these different space features. And we can go even to the International Space Center, and we can tour the International Space Center. So we can take a tour here with our arrows. And like in the Van Gogh Museum, you will also see more information about the different features within the International Space Center. My students loved touring around here. You can go to other planets. So you have other planets listed. And when you do click on another planet, it does have more information about the different features on that planet. If you just give it a second, they'll pop up. There they are. So let's go ahead and head back to Earth. Another great activity, I call it a random drop, but I assign the students to find certain things. So maybe we're studying our states and capitals, and I ask them to randomly drop on a particular state. So maybe they're going to drop here on Florida. And they're going to look around and they're going to compare what Florida looks like. They could even take a screenshot and put this into a project, and to what Maine looks like. Sometimes they get into cities, they just exit back out, try again to get more vegetation of what it looks like compared to another place. And we do this a lot with climate zones, and we head up to the poles and we look at what it looks like in an ice cap or a tundra. This looks more like a tundra. And you can even go down to Antarctica, and they do have some street view down here on Antarctica. Get zoomed in just a little bit more here on the peninsula. And there's one. Oh, you have to be right on those little dots. There we go. And there you go. So pretty cool to see. And my students really loved being able to randomly drop in different places and to show each other. So that's why I made that a collaborative activity. The next, let's go ahead and return back to Elko. Let's go to Elko High. You can measure within Google Maps. So we could measure the football field. What you're going to do is you're going to right click on it, measure your distance, click on one spot, and then move the other, and you can measure the distance of the football field. So we could find out how long it is, figure out the area, things like that. You can also get the latitude and longitude of a particular spot. What you're going to want to do is you're going to right click and click on what is here. When you click what's here, this number right here is the latitude and longitude, and if you click on it, it will pop up over here. You can also search for places with the latitude and longitude. If you put the latitude and longitude into the search bar, it will search for that place. So it will bring us here. Even if we were somewhere else, so maybe we're over here and we put that in, it will take us back. You can get directions. So if we are going from, let's say, Salt Lake City to New York. When you get the directions, you have a couple options with this. It'll give you the different directions here, but you can choose that if you want to drive, it will tell you how long it will take on the different routes. You can see public transit if there's public transit available. You can also see how long it would take to walk. You would also see how long it would take you to bike. And when you go to airplanes, you can see the different flight and how much it relatively costs. You can also click on see results in Google Flights and see comparison flights. If you're flying maybe overseas to Paris, it will give you, it's not the exact route, but it'll give you a pretty good route of the plane flight, which is also interesting. Students think because of the way the maps are made that you would travel across the United States, but oftentimes you would go up and over Greenland. So this is also very fascinating to them to see that plane flight on the map, the globe. So I hope you enjoy Google Maps. It's one of my favorite tools, and there's so much to be done with it. If you learn a tip or a trick, let me know.